Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Manchester. Welcome to our Central Library, which I hope you'll agree has been a fantastic refurbishment and a testament to how we want to take things forward in Manchester in the future. My name's Paul Beardmore. I'm Director of Housing here at the City Council, and it's my job simply to welcome you and to introduce our table of speakers this morning. We are, of course, here to launch Manchester Place. I'm not going to say much more about that, as I'm sure our speakers will say a little bit more about Manchester Place. We've got time for question and answer sessions a bit later on, or unfortunately Sir Richard Lees has to leave for an important business meeting, but the rest of us will be here, and there are staff here from the Council and the Homes and Communities Agency to answer questions at the end. So, without further ado, I shall pass over to Sir Richard Lees, Leader of Manchester City Council.
Thanks very much, Paul. Good morning, everybody. I had to smile at the notion of an important business meeting. I have to go and buy a shirt, is where we're going to go. I'd like to say I'm trying to get away from the image of councillors being old men in grey suits, but actually the reality is, that, as many of you know, is that I often come to the town hall by bike, which I did this morning, but forgot to bring a shirt with me. And it is a meeting of the full council today, and really I think I probably do need a shirt. So apologies for that. In terms of members, Jeff Smith, who's our executive member for Housing and Regeneration, is with us. So actually, if there are any questions, if you like, of a political nature, Jeff will be here to respond to those. Manchester, over the period between 2001 and 2011 censuses, was the fastest growing city in the UK. Our population grew by 19%. It's continued to grow since, and it's probably now topping 520,000 in terms of population. We've also become a very much younger city. The biggest area of population growth was 25 to 29-year-olds, where the population grew by 40%. The next biggest area was 0 to 4-year-olds. And if you look at our housing stats, if you look at particularly the void rate in housing in Manchester, we are, to all intents and purposes, full. The void rate is 4% at the moment, which is lower than you would get from natural turnover. And if you take some of that are properties that are either waiting demolition or a major refurbishment, the actual real void rate is even lower than that. Our economy continues to grow. We now have less people out of work, receiving worklessness benefits, less people even with that bigger population than we did pre-recession. We see that growth within the city centre, we see it within the enterprise zone in East Manchester, we see it in sectors like the media, driven of course by Media City across the river in Salford, we see it in creative arts, we see it in science, we see it in the universities. We see it still in financial and professional services. The city is continuing to attract private sector investment. Indeed, currently it is almost a magnet for private sector investment. That's something we need to harness. We need to harness that growth, we need to harness that population, and we need to use that to continue to build an ambitious city, an aspirational city, and a city that provides high quality of life for our residents. Quality of life, quality of place go hand in hand with that growing economy, that growing population. To do that, we need to be able to provide a whole range of new homes, a whole range of new households. And if you can think of a housing tenure, a housing type, then at the moment Manchester has the demand for that. Whether it's for young people trying to get their first home, which we've been reading about in the press recently, or whether it's executive housing, if it's older people who are looking to downsize, if it's young families, any sort of housing that you can think of, there is a demand for it in Manchester. And clearly one of the things that the banking crash and the recession caused was a great difficulty in being able to meet that sort of demand. If we don't meet that demand, if we don't see homes, housing as part of the supply side of a growing economy, then we are going to damage the long-term prospects of the city. That's why the government, through the Homes and Communities Agency and the City Council, have come together to form Manchester Place. A strategic alliance. We're not house builders, neither of us are house builders, but a strategic alliance to make sure that the sites are in place, that the infrastructure is in place, that investment support is in place to ensure that the private sector in particular and our registered social landlord colleagues within the city can deliver the products that we need. We have, as a city, been phenomenally successful in shaping our future. In Manchester, the future isn't something that happens to us, it's something that we make. And indeed, the building we're in at the moment is a wonderful example of that. We've taken a 1930s building, clearly one of the jewels of Manchester's relatively recent history, but a jewel that was actually before we started the refurbishment work that was almost literally falling down. Some of the floors in this building were and this is literally held up by the books. So major refurbishment job, and we have transformed this building, just as we've transformed the Town Hall extension next door. We are in the process of transforming the city. A lot of people say we've achieved a lot over the last decade or so. There is a lot more that we need to do, and say that this strategic alliance, this joint venture between the Homes and Communities Agency and the City Council is going to be a key plank in that transformation process over the next 10 years. And as I said, I'm going to disappear to go shopping. But I'm delighted to be able to hand over to Deborah McLaughlin, who used to, not that long ago, actually work in the City Council as Director of Housing, now a key strategic partner representing the Homes and Communities Agency. So can I hand over to Deborah McLaughlin? And thank you very much.
Hi, thanks Richard, and good morning to everybody and welcome to the launch. Lucky Richard going shopping, that's great. It's great to see so many of you here today, and of course it isn't surprising because of the interest in the city and investing in the city. You know, I work for a national agency, and this is the one city where we invest more of our investment, our funds, than any other city, and that's because it's a great place to work and the potential here is enormous. So everybody is recognising the role cities play and the importance of growing cities, and my team are constantly being asked about the plans. So today, announcing the Manchester Place initiative, will start to bring together all our assets, our skills, our experience with the city, their assets, skills and experience, to be able to really start moving forward on developing the housing offer for the city. Indeed, we all recognise that the importance of the prosperity of cities, and there's been a lot of interest in the press about cities and how they can really grow to help the national growth as well as local growth. But cities can't prosper without a really good housing offer and an attractive housing offer. So we are competing with other places, and it's really important that what we do create is a quality product that meets aspirations of both existing residents and also to meet the growing need that Richard talked about. So our shared objective is to develop and build 55,000 new homes, and it is ambitious, but we're very confident that we can do that, and we have the space, the land available, the talent of people in this room to help us develop that number. The homes need to be in a great neighbourhood. This isn't just about building units, numbers, housing, but actually creating attractive neighbourhoods that provide the right mix of amenities and the facilities for residents, so people will be drawn to the places that we're creating. And that's why we're creating this strong sense of place. So when we talk to you going forward about Manchester Place, we do want to talk about how we make places attractive. What are the facilities that we need to bring into neighbourhoods to make sure they're great places to want to live? Through Manchester Place, we will stimulate the housing to but underpin the economic growth of the city clearly. And HCA's got a strong track record of combining our assets and our investments to develop new housing markets and improve urban areas and attract businesses. So we don't just look at housing, but communities is really very important to us. And the way we work is we always work alongside a place and try and work to achieve the ambitions of a place. So whilst we're a national agency, we don't come along and say we need X numbers of this or that. What we do is tailor our programmes and our investment into places, and we work well with local authorities to understand where they want that investment. So the development of Manchester Place, I mean, we've been working well for over a number of years. Since I left the city, we've continued to work very well with HCA. And this process really is just the next step in the evolution of our relationship. It's a stronger collaboration. We already have a joint team now that Sir Howard and I jointly chair that is working together to be able to bring forward opportunities for the market to develop. And it's a really good example of close working and using the skills that we have in our agency with the skills the city have and the powers to be able to move forward and accelerate development. And one of our key objectives is really to get the pace right and step up the pace to be able to meet our ambitions. So by working closely together with this new collaboration, we will help the city transform itself, as Richard outlined, and be able to create great places and neighbourhoods using the skills. You know, in the room today we've got investors, house builders, planners, architects, designers. We have the full set of skills that are available to a city, and what we really need to do is to work collaboratively at pace to be able to bring forward our objectives and ambitions. So thank you for the time. We'll be around for questions later, but I thought I'd just hand over to Sir Howard now as the last speaker. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Deborah. Well, I think everything's more or less been said, actually. I just really want to talk a little bit about why we've been doing what we've been doing, really, over the last 9, 12 months, because I do think it's quite a distinctive approach which we're trying to take here within the city. As Richard and Deborah has already said, we need to build a lot more homes. It's not just simply about building a lot more homes, we also need to build those homes to meet a changing supply and demand in terms of the changing demographics of the city. So it's not just housing for sale, it's also got to be housing for rent. And we need to do that in a way which supports an increasing proportion of the people who live and work here to be economically active. That's the key, as people heard me say before, about what the long-term sustainability of this city is all about. So we need, in a sense, new partnerships. Partnerships not just about reform, we also need, because this one is about a partnership for growth, we need partnerships with new investors. We were privileged to be part of an announcement, a groundbreaking announcement a few months ago now, with the Abu Dhabi United Group, which is going to give us access to significant levels of investment, up to £1 billion over the next 10 years, to build up to 7,000 or thereabout new homes, predominantly in East Manchester. Groundbreaking, but also logical in the context of how we have extended the reach of a partnership that was born 6 years ago almost, in terms of transforming initially the Etihad campus, increasingly now trying to use the energy, the reach of that partnership in terms of transforming the wider East Manchester area. And we all are working very, very hard, and I think you will see manifestations of Manchester Life, as it is now called, its activities over the next few months. But equally, as Deborah has already indicated, we need different partnerships with other stakeholders as well. The HCA has been steadfast in its support of the city's growth ambitions for many years, not just because Deborah is now a very senior manager, senior director in HCA. The HCA was doing very, very good things for Manchester before Deborah. Indeed, when Eamon Boylan, who used to work here as well, was actually a senior member of the management team at the HCA. But the real issue, though, serious issue, is about the HCA do get it. And what we've actually got to do within the city is start to understand how what would otherwise appear to be a myriad of different national programmes around housing, how we can actually start to synergise those, align those to our place-based priorities here in Manchester. How we actually create a focus around how assembling and preparing land for development. How we do what I think Manchester probably does as good as anywhere, probably better than most. How we facilitate our effective place shaping role through good master planning and design. How we draw landowners together. How we meet the needs of a growing and deepening investor base and maximise the private investment generally. How we promote early investment in order to ensure sites are ready for development. How we set the highest standards of management for the delivery, not just of housing management, but place management as well. All of us know how important that is. And how we actually build a hugely effective and successful pipeline of development. Those are big challenges, and Deborah and I said several months ago, the only way we can do that is by starting to join up our activities at a place level. So that is the purpose of Manchester Place. It's a focus for delivering all of those key objectives. And crucially, it's also a focus for ensuring that any barriers to the development of our growth ambitions are, as far as we can, removed. And that will mean utilising compulsory powers of acquisition in order to ensure that the council's growth ambitions, the development community, the investment community's opportunities are not constrained by unreasonable behaviour. So Manchester Place is alive. Manchester Place shows that Manchester is open for business to all developers, to all investors. We're now very hard at work establishing real priorities areas for investment and action. Lots of work being done by all our colleagues in driving down to produce detailed plans, detailed programmes for each of those priority areas. We'll be publishing those proposals in an open way so that everyone will be able to see what we're doing, and we want to be doing that certainly no later than the autumn of this year. Anybody who wants to talk to us in the interim about what we are doing, I think you'll find all of us are pretty visible and accessible. And our mission, as Richard has said, is to really drive the housing contribution to the growth of our city. And I believe we have the vision, we have the resources and the commitment, I believe, to ensure that that mission is accomplished, and that over the next few years we will see unprecedented levels of investment and activity within our city. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Howard, Deborah, and unfortunately Richard's had to go. Hopefully Jeff Smith, who was sat there a few minutes ago, will be joining us at the top when he returns. Okay, quite happy now if people want to ask any questions or make any points. I know this is always the awkward point where people just sit there and wait. But if there are any questions, please just put your hand up, say where you're from, and our panel's here to answer what we can. John Mayer.
Maybe just ask Deborah, Tony McCall from McCall's Development. We developed a point at New Islington with the help of the HCA, and I just wonder going forward, is it going to be a new way of doing things? It's going to be the same funding arrangement? Will the city become part of the HCA including funding? You know, just can you give us any idea of how things will change from what's happened before?
I think our programmes exist, and we have lots of programmes, but if you think about it, invariably they are generally development finance. Sometimes they're called Kickstart, Get Britain Building Builders Finance Fund, there's different funds. So those exist and they are national programmes, but what we're doing here is making sure that those funds are targeted to the schemes that are the priorities for the city. So we'll still have the same approvals process, but what will happen is that at our joint meetings, we will jointly as Manchester Place decide which are the priority schemes, which ones are the most important to develop, and they will be, you know, the priorities that we've agreed here, and they're the schemes that will go forward for national approval. Our national approval on funding is really about risk management. You know, is it a viable project, and will we get our return back at the end of the day? And they're the decisions that have to be taken sort of as a back office decision, but the schemes and the priorities will be agreed at Manchester Place.
Just add one point to that. Deborah's absolutely right, of course, but I think what we're trying to do is change our front door to developers and investors, so that, you know, we're actually trying to align people's enthusiasm and interest within the areas which we believe we can make the maximum benefit.
Okay, if there are any other questions, or if not, we'll draw this to a close if there's no further questions. We're not due to finish till 9:30, so people from the council, from the HCA, will be hanging around here. Well, perhaps not hanging, but we will be around, so please feel free to come up and ask any of us more detailed questions, and we'll be happy to try and answer those where we can. And the other thing, as Howard, I think, summed up there, we're happy now for any of you to want to arrange any appointments, any meetings with us individually or as a group, to come up and have a more detailed discussion around where those opportunities might lie, how you may work with us on those opportunities. So again, if you want to leave business cards or whatever with colleagues that are around the room after the meeting, then we're more than happy to facilitate that. So thank you again for attending, and thank you again for our speakers to take the time out to come this morning. And we'll be speaking to you all out in the foyer, or if you want to stay in this room, we'll be around. Thank you, Aquin.